There's a lot of interest in Albany on economic development, bringing new jobs to upstate New York. We're very interested in that. State Senator O'Mara is interested in that. He's a member of the majority party in the state Senate. They're interested in that. So a lot of things are lining up now. And I'll turn it over to Senator O'Mara to tell us some of the details of what he himself and what he works on, and then I'm sure he'll open it up for questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Charlie. Thanks for coming out. There's a few seats in the back if you guys want to move back a little bit further. Thanks for coming out. Just like church, everybody wants to not be too close to the front. I certainly understand that, but Charlie, thank you and Cornell University for inviting me to be here. Certainly, this is a very unique spot at Cornell in all of upstate New York, and I have the privilege of representing it. My district is by and large very rural. It covers 4.5 counties. It includes half of Tompkins County, including the city of Ithaca, where we are now, and it goes all the way west through Chemung County, Steuben County, Yates County, and Schuyler County. So I've got the southern half of the Finger Lakes and a big section of the southern tier along the Pennsylvania border. Largely rural in nature of the district, but having Ithaca in it makes it an extremely diverse district that I have, much like the state of New York is. We've got all rural upstate and New York City in it. I've got all this rural territory, and then I've got Ithaca in the northeast corner of it, which adds a lot of vitality and diversity to the issues that I work on, and it makes my work very exciting. It'd be pretty dull if I just had one issue in dealing with rural issues, which is the predominant part of the rest of my district, which I enjoy very much, but it's certainly refreshing to be able to come here to the city of Ithaca and Cornell in particular with the vitality, the academia, the youth that's here, and the outlook for our future. You know, I look across my district and the struggles that we have are very similar to most of upstate New York with our economic challenges through unemployment and the like. Tompkins County is an aberration in that. Tompkins County, I believe, has the lowest unemployment rate of any county in the state, and it has, I think, everything to do with Cornell University and the fact that you're located here in the center of New York, in this beautiful country that we have, and all this great activity. I think Charlie said you're the largest employer in my district by far, but Cornell is also, where do you rank in the state? Like number 2 or something like that?
Numbers 8 or 9, I think. But
in all the state as far as employees go. So Cornell is an economic engine, not just here in Tompkins County, but all across New York, and with very exciting things going on with Cornell now and building a new campus in New York City that will help to expand Cornell and have the attraction of Cornell University, but also the metropolitan New York City area. As Charlie mentioned, he and Zoe spend a lot of time in Albany, a lot of time in my office at Albany, and they're great to work with. You've got great representatives that are representing you in the state, and it makes my job very easy to be kept up to speed on where things stand, what the university needs, where I can help, and also have them kind of help me in my job in getting things done by the lobbying work and what they do going around to other members of the legislature, helping me sell the ideas that we're trying to do to help Cornell, whether it's grant funding for something or legislative changes that needs to be done. It's a great team effort that we have in working on that. But you know, we talk a lot about economic development, and one of the biggest problems we have in New York State, particularly upstate. The New York City economy is kind of rolling along at a steady, slow pace, but upstate New York is lagging behind, and we struggle throughout the rest of my district in finding ways to encourage economic development, investment in new businesses to create the jobs that my constituents need. You know, we've seen a lot of departure from New York State from our youth. In finding greener pastures. I myself went to college, and then I went to law school in Syracuse, and I grew up in Horseheads, just 30 miles south of here. And I went to New York City, worked in the Manhattan DA's office for 3 years after graduating law school at Syracuse, and got great experience. And the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but I had the opportunity to move back home, go into a law practice with my father, which I am still in to this day on a part-time basis, in addition to my role in the legislature. So it's been very rewarding for me to be able to have spent some time away from here and come back, and I think you really learn just how great it is here and how nice we have it in the environment that we have in the Finger Lakes region and whatnot. But we really need to work strongly to encourage economic growth so that there is a future for individuals to live here, to work here, gainfully employed, a great place to raise your family and your children. I have 3 children. I live in Big Flats now, which is right between Elmira and Corning, and my kids are 12, 14, and 16 years old, and all attending school. My 16-year-old is just starting to drive, so that's a lot of fun, teaching her to do that. But I want them to have a future here in this area of New York State if they choose to live here and to be able to find a good job. I fully anticipate that my children will grow up and go to college, find their various interests and what they want to do, but have the opportunity to be able to have a future here in the Southern Tier and Finger Lakes region of New York State. We've got a very strong, growing, and vibrant tourism industry in the Finger Lakes with our wine industry, with the museums we have, primarily the Corning Museum of Glass is the number 1, or I think it's the number 3 museum attraction in New York State. And it's, I think, because, first of all, the great museum that it is, but it's located midway between New York City and Niagara Falls, which makes it a convenient stopping point for bus tours to go through. But Corning Incorporated, Corning Glass is aside from Cornell, the second largest employer in my Senate district, and they're doing very well. And they're making investments in manufacturing at Corning in their diesel catalytic converter business. They've chosen to expand in Corning to create about 250 new jobs for a project that nearly went to China to do manufacturing here in the United States, which is extremely good jobs that we have. But what we're doing at the state, as you may be aware, the governor has set up 10 regional economic development councils across the state. We here in the Southern Tier Regional Economic Development Council here, and every year there's people submit applications for funding for a variety of purposes, primarily to get economic development going. And we're working right now with what's called a hotspot, and every region is putting in to have an innovation hotspot put in. The Southern Tier region has put in for a triangular hotspot, Southern Tier region, that will include Cornell being at the top of the triangle, going down to Corning, where Corning Glass is, and there's a ceramics corridor down there, and over to Binghamton with SUNY Binghamton and the great engineering school that they have there. Now we're waiting to see later towards the end of this year whether we get that designation or not, but that will bring extra dollars in to what already is $1.5 billion in research dollars in that triangular region. So we are, hopeful that this hotspot will help lead to further opportunities. You may have heard about the governor's new initiative called Startup New York, which is a program that will have zero tax liability to a startup business locating in a startup zone. And every SUNY campus has been designated as a startup zone. Cornell is already ahead of the game here because you've had an incubator, business incubator project going on campus already that has been effective, and we hear of successes every day. In fact, just a day or two ago, there was a story in the paper about a company that's operating right here on campus called Glycovia that does some medical research with drugs and medicine, and that's going very well. There was an article about how well it's doing, and then it started here. But the idea of the startup zones is the governor's initial approach here to deal with the high cost of doing business in New York. We are ranked number 50 out of all the states in the country for tax environment and business climate. New York State is. Makes it very difficult to encourage business growth. So the tenet of the startup zone is no taxes for 10 years. No property taxes, no employment taxes. The new part about this really is no income taxes for those employees working at those businesses during that 10-year period. We've had other incentive programs in economic development over the years. Never has it gone out and said no income taxes to the employees to encourage, to lure the employees, the best and the brightest, to come work at these startups, whether they're engineers or whatever professionals, to do this, continue the research that is developed at our university system, the intellectual property that we want to encourage to get to market, and to provide these types of incentives to take the intellectual property that universities such as Cornell or Binghamton or others around the state have sitting in the library or the research facilities, and get out there and give somebody a leg up to try to take that entrepreneurial risk in starting up a business to see if we can get these products to market, and then send them off onto their own to grow, and hopefully, locate in this beautiful region that we have. And I think if one of the problems we have in New York, because of the high tax climate, is luring young professionals to New York, or getting them to stay here once they graduate from our great educational institutions. Because it's not just the cost of business in New York, it's the cost of living in New York, with property taxes being the nation's highest by a long ways for owning a home in this state. Governor Cuomo says it best, and I'm not of the same party as Governor Cuomo. I've worked very well with him on a lot of initiatives towards fiscal conservatism at the state level, and government spending, and getting government costs under control, as well as economic development issues. But the governor says it best when he says New York State has no future as the tax capital of the nation. And that's what we have been consistently over the years, in coming in and ranking 50th in tax climate in New York State. When somebody's looking to expand a company, to relocate a company, you don't need to look much past that headline and realize that New York is a real desirable place to go to get your business going. But Cornell obviously has, which plays a lot into my district, being rural, a great agricultural program here that's just fantastic, in the benefits it provides to our agricultural community, with the Geneva Experiment Station and all the research that's done in that regard. It's just fantastic with that. This year, or was it last year, I worked with Charlie and Zoe on expanding funding for the Cornell Veterinary School, so that could be expanded by 20%. The program, it's the #1 veterinary school in the country here, and helping to get that expanded. I've been pleased and proud to be a part of that. And just this area and Cornell and the tradition that it brings, being the fine institution that it is, really gives me a lot of pride in representing this area. But there's a lot of pride in the whole community to have such a great institution to be able to grow off of. And I think that the startup program that the governor's got going, with the support of the legislature and these economic incentives, give us some promise and some hope to be able to build off of that into the future, and have our economy here grow even greater, and spread, not just to have Tompkins County as the lowest unemployment in New York State, but all the surrounding counties and regions to have good exciting career jobs for individuals, for young people to want to be here, to live in this great area, and to be able to have productive lives, raise their families here, and live in this beauty that I was brought up in and want to see continue here. That about covers the topics that I wanted to talk about, and I'm more interested in hearing what your questions are and whether I can respond directly to any particular issues that you have an interest in, rather than me standing here and talking more about what maybe you could care less about or what have you. But I do thank you for coming out and giving me your attention to this point, and look forward to some questions from you if anybody would like to kick it off.
I have a question.
Yes.
So folks here in town were very appreciative of the fact that you helped get some funding to help us with the hydrilla and the inlet and Cuba Lake. Can you talk about any other environmental issues that you're working on in your office that might have a local impact? Anything regarding the lakes or?
Well, there's hydrilla has been the biggest one that I've been involved with since I've been in office, and that, we've done a good job getting funding secured for that. Now it seems a few areas may have leaked out, and we've got a continuing growing problem that we want to keep that from spreading. But invasive species in general is a big problem with the emerald ash borers coming across the entire region. They're affecting our ash tree populations and how we deal with those. But there's any number of them, from the zebra mussels in our lakes that came and were going to be a catastrophe and made our lakes a lot clearer, has affected the ecosystem to a large extent, but that has kind of backed up a little bit and is a more stable level than that at the fast-paced growth we saw at the beginning. But environmentally, I'd say invasive species of a variety of types are something we really got to keep our eye on, and they're extremely costly to attack and to stop, as we're seeing with hydrilla right now. Even though we've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into it already, and we're seeing it still sneak out into the lake, and that can go throughout the whole Finger Lakes, into the Erie Canal, and into the Great Lakes, and cause a problem for our waterways, our sources of water, our recreational activities that go along with the lakes.
Thank you.
Now, the other big environmental issue that's the 800-pound elephant in the room is fracking, and where that's going, and that's been at a standstill for 5.5 years now. And I don't know what the governor's thinking on that or where he's going on that, but it just seems to be a standstill right now with nothing happening.
Thank you.
Are there any initiatives that you're working with Congressman Reed on as a federal?
Yeah, there are. I would say a major one that I'm working with Congressman Reed on, and it has to do with the environment as well, has to do with the Chesapeake Bay water, what we refer to as TMDL, total maximum daily load of effluents into the Chesapeake waterway, and where the EPA wants to put standards on what areas can totally discharge through the river systems into the Chesapeake Bay region. And there are some really over-the-top burdensome requirements that could be in the billions and billions of dollars for New York State to deal with to clean up the effluents into the water of the Chesapeake Bay. But if you look at the water that's coming from New York into the Chesapeake Bay region, New York is discharging the cleanest water of any state in the Chesapeake Bay region, yet we may end up being penalized and have to reach an even higher standard to reduce what is already quite clean water going into the system. And most of the damage to the Chesapeake water system is coming from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, where they don't have farms, by and large. It's a metropolitan area. It is residential fertilizers and things like that are going into the ground. But to meet standards that have been thrown out there and proposed would require very extensive work to water treatment, municipal water treatment facilities throughout the Chesapeake Bay region in New York State, which is many counties along the southern tier. So that's probably the biggest one I'm working with Congressman Reed on at this point, and you know how the federal process goes. You work down there; it takes a long time to see any movement, and then as things can happen in Albany, something can happen overnight too. So we're trying to stay on top of that to make sure that we don't get unduly penalized. We want our water to be as clean, as discharge into that, because it all aggregates as it goes down the chain. But to hold us to a standard in New York that's greater than communities lower down the Chesapeake Bay isn't fair either, when our water's already cleaner than theirs.
What areas of the state would be involved with fracking?
As I see it right now, it would be potentially about this level, north-south in the state. It would be predominantly from eastern Steuben County, Chemung County, Tioga County, Broome County, and Delaware County, closest to the Pennsylvania border, is where the most activity would be. As you get further up, further north, the shale level becomes shallower in the ground, and it's called Marcellus Shale because it ultimately surfaces in Marcellus, New York, just outside of Syracuse. And all the drilling that's being pursued right now, and the standards that the Department of Environmental Conservation are evaluating for permitting have to be deeper than 2,000 feet. And at 2,000 feet level, it doesn't get to Cayuga Lake in that level. If you go west into Seneca Lake, you get maybe 2 or 3 miles up from the south end of the lake. All of Cayuga Lake would be within that zone, and just a fraction of Canandaigua Lake, if the shale even is that far productive over that far west. But really the heart of it is south of here. South of here from really Chemung County through Broome County is really what the heart of it would be, in my understanding of it. Now there's another shale formation called Utica Shale, which is even deeper than the Marcellus Shale, and that has been pursued or explored in some areas, but I don't think there's any real results yet that shows how productive that would be, or what the odds are of that being explored in the future. But the first target would be the Marcellus Shale. And we have had in those same counties over the years drilling in what's called the Trenton Black River Formation, which doesn't involve horizontal drilling, it involves vertical drilling. You get more into a pocket of gas as opposed to a narrow band of shale that's running along that you're trying to drill into.
Any other questions? No? Seeing none. Thank you, Senator. Thanks for coming and
Charlie.
telling us about. Thank you very much.